Hello everyone! Today I will use Hurricane Shiftry in a few different games from two sets using different teams. And the first team that I will use is Gyarados as a lead, and then Abomasnow and Shiftry as a safe swap. And the idea here is that when switching in Shiftry, you will lure out the fighter or fire type, so that Abomasnow gets better matchups in the end. And my first opponent is Mark Danger, that leads with Toxicroak, so that's a great lead for me, because my backline doesn't want to face the fighter, but my opponent switches into Lapras, so suddenly it's a very bad position, because I'm not going to be able to maintain switch advantage, because I don't have a clean answer to Lapras, but at least Abomasnow will be able to force a shield advantage if my opponent doesn't want to have his Toxicroak against Gyarados. So I'm not going to shield this, and then I'm going for another energy ball, and my opponent is forced to shield this. So now I have shield advantage, but my opponent regains switch advantage. So here I hope to farm down with Gyarados, and my opponent throws an Ice Beam, so that's not really good. And I make 4 more waterfalls, because that's the amount of fast moves my opponent needs for the next charge move. So then I'm forced to throw, and that was a very inefficient Aqua Tail, only dealing a few HP. And then my opponent has a Empoleon in the back, so this is a losing position, and all my opponent needs to do is to shield this, but he is thinking that he resists all of my moves, so there's no need to shield. The Hurricane is very unexpected. It can flip a lot of matchups just because the opponents are not shielding them. And then I double up on Leaf Blades and KO this Empoleon. So this has happened a ton the last few games, that like Venusaurs and Gallades and even a Hunchcrow got one shot because they have no idea that the Hurricane is coming. Next up is a game against the green-haired swordsman Zoro, and he leads with Gengar, which is decent for my entire team, since as long as I have shields for eventual sludge bombs or shadow balls, it's not going to pose a threat. But my opponent, just like the last opponent, swaps in a Pokemon that I don't have a clean answer for. But what I'm thinking here is that since they swapped immediately, I don't think that they have a fire type or fighting type in the back, because my natural response would be to swap out the Gyarados, so then why would they bother having their weak Pokemon to Gyarados up against it later in the game. So I will let my Gyarados go down here and hope that my backline can finish his backline. And I will tank one last resort and overfarm a ton of energy, because with an energy advantage, Shiftry will become a monster. And hopefully they don't have anything that counters Shiftry in the back, but they do have a fighter, and it's not just any fighter, it's a fighter that's not weak to Hurricane. So I will go for the Leaf Blade spam, and Shiftry is insanely spammy, because the first 3 Leaf Blades only takes 4.5 seconds, but the 4th one takes 3 seconds to charge up to. So then I switch out my Shiftry with a sliver of health left to be used as a extra shield later in the game if necessary against the Gengar. And here I will hopefully just farm down all the way with Powder Snows, but my opponent is able to reach one more charge move. So now I'm shieldless against a full health Gengar with 1 shield. But Abomasnow is just like Gengar and just like Shiftry, very very spammy. So with an energy advantage I have a chance, and then after a few Shadow Claws, I switch into Shiftry to catch the Shadow Punch, and then I'm just able to reach the next Weather Ball. And even though I barely have any HP left, the Obstagoon was even lower, so I managed to farm it down and win that game. And next up in game number 4 of the set is Philly Sectors, because I skipped one game that was uninteresting, and he leads with Shadow Dragonite, so that's terrible for a Waterfall Gyarados. So I immediately safe swaps into Shiftry, and they swap into Galarian Stunfisk. So this is not as good of a matchup as it is in Great League, where all you have to do is connect with 2 Leaf Blades and then farm down with Snarls, but rather you have to connect with 3 Leaf Blades. but you still do outspam the Galarian Stunfisk. So here I overcharge slightly and hope that they don't shield, so that I have switch advantage, which would be great with my Abomasnow against the Dragonite. But then they catch the next Leaf Blade on the Dragonite. So I wasted a lot of energy, but at least I have the matchup that I wanted. And then here I made a mistake, a rather big mistake. I should have just kept on farming to get a ton of energy, but I wondered why he didn't throw his charge move immediately, so maybe I could make him waste all of that energy. But that was a mistake on my part. I got greedy. And then I farmed down with Waterfalls, and his last Pokemon is a Venusaur. So this is not a particularly good situation, because all he had to do is not shield that one, and then connect with 3 Frenzy Plants on my 2 last Pokemon to win the game. But in his eyes, the move that could have done the most damage to Venusaur was an Outrage from Gyarados, because he didn't expect the Hurricane on Shiftry. So once again, the Hurricane comes in clutch in the end. The last opponent in this set is Parliament, and he leads with a Gyarados, so it's terrible for me since every Gyarados in Premier Cup is running Dragon Breath, except for mine. So I safe swap into Shiftry and he counter swaps into Escavalier, which is bad but not terrible, since at least he will have to throw his energy, so he doesn't come out with a ton of energy, or I would have forced a shield or gotten switch advantage. So then I can farm down with Gyarados, but now my opponent knows that I have Waterfall. So he's just going to come in with his own Gyarados, and he deals neutral damage and also outpaces me to the charge moves, while I am dealing resisted damage and am slow to my fast moves. So I have to trust in Abomasnow, and my opponent's last Pokemon is Shadow Machamp, so this is terrible. This team is very bad against a double fighter team, and well, my only chance is to connect with an energy ball, because just a weather ball won't be enough since we are in the Ultra League. But my opponent obviously shielded it, so at this point I have no way to win. I will just shield this and farm down and try to get to another crunch, but obviously it's nothing to be done in this position. So that's a 4-1 set, and I found some of the games very interesting, so that's why I chose to display them. And next up, I will showcase a team where I use Shiftry as a lead, and then I have Machamp in the back and Togekiss also. So next up is a game against Mew, and this is game number 4 of the set, because I skipped the first 3 because I didn't find them interesting and I don't want this video to be too long. But in this matchup, I go for the Leaf Blade after 5 Snarls, because I want to hit the CMP with the Drill Peck, and this is a much more consistent strategy to not have your opponent get fast moves through. Much more consistent than fast move denial, which I also do when I don't have the ability to try to hit the CMPs. But anyways, they didn't shield, so now I'm in a good spot because I have switch advantage, but Charizard is not really good for anything in my team, but it does have Dragon Breath, so I switched in Togekiss to double resist the Dragon Breath, and they counter switch into Umbreon. So here I make a terrible mistake by throwing this Ancient Power. I thought I was in a easily winning position, but actually it's not. I should have just farmed down, of course, all the way with only Charms and double up on the Ancient Power, but instead, now at this point I realize that this Charizard might actually sweep my entire team, so I'm forced to shield here to since I'm at an Ancient Power, so I will be able to force his last shield, and then I need to somehow reach my Rock Slide on Machamp. So I switched in the Shiftry right there to fake having being close to a fast move, and my opponent probably panicked because he probably thought that I had much more energy than I actually did. So he threw immediately instead of farming all the way down, which made it so that I could win that game. But that was definitely bad played by me. And in the last game of the video, I go up against Drizzy, and he leads with a Skarmory, which is absolutely disgusting for this team because it beats every single Pokemon that I have. But I do have a plan, and that is to send in Machamp and hope that they stay, because Skarmory is usually the best fighting counter in a team. So it's not unlikely that they stay, but sometimes they switch either way. But they did stay for a while, which was good for me, but not the best, because I wanted to ship away even more on the Skarmory. But at least I got one shield from him, and here there's no reason for me to shield, because then I will just be farmed down with Hexes. But the Skarmory is still at half health, so I still have to find some way to deal with it. So here I will overfarm a lot, and then go for a Leaf Blade just before he reaches an Icy Wind, and then go for a Hurricane to ship away even more of the health of the Skarmory, and then hopefully has something in the back that is weak to Togekiss. And I'm definitely going to shield this, because it might be Brave Bird, and actually it is. And then my opponent's last Pokemon is Garchomp, so that's very cool to see in Premier Cup, but this is not Master League, this is Ultra League, so Garchomp is not that good, and this is the worst matchup in the entire game for Garchomp. So I was very lucky there in the end, and my opponent realized that the Skarmory is too low, so they resign, and I go 5-0 and hit 3,154, which is my highest rating of the season so far. But that's it, thanks for watching.